Welcome to your video on factoring quadratic trinomials when a is not 1. We're going to take some notes. You should have a notes page that accompanies this lesson. Let's begin on top. We're going to factor these two using x-factor method. This one, a times c. A is 1, c is negative 130, so a times c is negative 130. In the bottom we put negative 3, the b value. Then we think of two numbers that multiply to this but add to this. Those two numbers are 10 and negative 13, because 10 times negative 13 makes negative 130. 10 plus negative 13 makes negative 3. So this must factor into x plus 10 and x minus 13. Now let's look at this one. In this case, a is not 1. Look, it's a 3, but we still follow the same rule. On the top, we have to do a times c, so 3 times 2. Right? Don't forget to multiply. We're kind of used to not multiplying because a was a 1 before. But now, 3 times 2, 6. On the bottom, the b value, which is 5. Here we're looking for two numbers that multiply to make 6 but add to 5. Those numbers are 2 and 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 plus 3 is 5. So this must factor then into x plus 2, x plus 3, using those two numbers. Let's double check. I'm not sure. The best way to double check if you factored correctly is to expand. It means multiply through and check if you get back to the original expression. So here we had this quadratic, we factored it into this. Now we're going to expand this to see if we get back to that. Let's multiply. X squared minus 13x plus 10x and minus 130. Combine the two middle terms and you get x squared minus 3x minus 130. That matches the upper one. So our factoring must have been done correctly because we got back to the original when we multiplied. Let's check this one. This one we had this factored form, perhaps. Now we're going to multiply through x times x squared, x times 3, 2 times x, and 2 times 3. We get this. Combine the two middle terms. We get x squared plus 5x plus 6. This is no good. Check it out. It does not match the original. The original was this, and now we have this. That means our factoring must have been wrong because our factoring multiplied doesn't bring us back to the original. So something went wrong. The reason for that is this a value is not 1. All right, the technique we used before only works when a is 1, like this one. But here, when a is not 1, it doesn't work. We have to do an extra step. That extra step is called factoring by grouping, and that's what we're going to look at a few examples now. Factoring by grouping relies on your mastery of this skill. Remember these? We have a GCF of x minus 1. If you factor that out, it becomes this, right? The x minus 1 comes out, and then we have 5x plus 6. You're going to use that. It's a key step in factoring by grouping. So here's the first example. Well, it's the same one we just did. We're going to find the mistake we made. So again, a times c on top. 3 times 2 is 6. On the bottom, b value 5. And then two numbers that multiply to make 6. 3 times 2 makes 6. 3 plus 2 makes 5. Great. So we're going to write it out like this. All right. We don't factor it yet. We have to write it out like this. So we're going to write it out in expanded form. So that 5x became 3x plus 2x. All right. It still means the same thing. We just found these two numbers and we expanded it like that. The next step in grouping is to group things. All right. We have 4 things. We're going to group them in pairs. So group the first two by putting parentheses around it. Group the last two by putting parentheses around it. Again, nothing has really changed. We're just writing it in different forms. All right, and now the next step is to factor out a GCF from each of those. All right, so from this one, I can see there's a 3 and x that can come out. So if I factor out 3x here, I get x plus 1, because 3x times that, and 3x times 1 is that. And from this parenthesis, we can factor out a 2. So I factor out a 2, and now we have 2 times x plus 1. Notice now that we have this situation, we have the same factor, see, x plus 1, x plus 1. So that is now our GCF for the entire thing. I'm going to pull out the x plus 1, and then I'm going to have 3x plus 2 here. Now that is the factored form. If you multiply that out now by expanding, check it, you'll see, you'll get back to this. So this method here is called factoring by grouping. It's an extension of the x-factor method when a is not 1. So multiply and double check. Now here is one for you to try. Give this one a try, see what you get. Okay, hopefully you did this one. First of all, 6 times 12, a times c is 72, 17 is your b value there, 9 and 8 multiply to 72, 9 and 8 add to 17. We write it out in expanded form like this. With the 9 and 8, the 17 has turned into 9x plus 8x. Now we group by putting parentheses around it. Oh, sorry about that extra. No, that's good. Put parentheses around it. Now you factor something out of each of those. Out of this one, 3x. Out of this one, 4. And then here is a common factor after we've done that GCF. Now, since there's a 2x plus 3 on both, we factor that out, and we have 2x plus 3 times 3x plus 4. Hopefully you got that. Double check by expanding. Make sure it multiplies back to your original expression. Try another one. Now with these ones on the back of your page, be very careful about the negative signs. Okay, let's check it out. 3 times 4 is 12. Negative 8 as your b value goes there. What two numbers make 12? Add up to negative 8? Well, negative 6, negative 2. They multiply to 12. They add up to negative 8. So I'm going to write it in expanded form with negative 6, negative 2. Now I'm going to group. Now be careful with the negatives, I said, when you group. So I put parentheses around the first thing, parentheses around the whole last thing, including the negative right here. And I put a plus sign here. So it's that plus that. All right. Now pull something out of here. Again, 3x comes out of that one. Out of this one, pull out a negative 2. So negative 2 came out. Notice what's going on with that negative. Be very careful about that. Because now this multiplied through here will get you back to this. Now look, x minus 2, x minus 2. So x minus 2 here, and then 3x minus 2 is our other factor. There it is, factored form. Multiply back to double check. Another one, more minus signs, more negative signs to think about. Here we have 2 times negative 6, negative 12. B value is here, negative 1. What numbers multiply? 3 times negative 4 makes negative 12. 3 plus negative 4, negative 1. Write it in expanded form. All right, there's my 3, there's my negative 4. Those are the same as negative 1. Group it. Parentheses around that, parentheses around that. All right, so that last bit with the negative sign, plus sign. Factor something out. X comes out. Factor something out. Negative 2 comes out. All right, always pull out a negative. And then here, see, 2x plus 3, 2x plus 3. So 2x plus 3 and then x minus 2. Check by expanding, multiply back, see if you get back to this. Excellent work. Now you can practice the rest of the worksheet and also practice assignment on the website.